Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, Out of Voice Radio. So today, I am continuing my look at the rotation by looking at all the cards we're losing from Primal Clash. I've already done my headlines of rotation video. Go and check that out, link in the description. Today, we are going deep into Primal Clash, and we're splitting the cards into 3 categories. Could have been fun techs, cards that never saw a huge amount of play, but were kind of interesting. Main cards we're losing, Pokemon that did see play, which we're having to say goodbye to, and trainer cards. And any good ones that have been reprinted, I will let you know when they were reprinted and why they're staying. So, could have been fun techs. Ludicolo. I always had a soft spot for Ludicolo, ladies and gentlemen. He's got an ability which is just a Pokemon catcher. Flip a coin, if heads you get to drag your opponent's bench Pokemon into the active, but it's got Forest of Giant Plants, so you can get going as much as you like. I tried to make this card work. It never did work, but that doesn't mean I ever gave up trying. We are losing Torchic. Now, Torchic was never a particularly great card, but Torchic was a fun card because it had Delta Plus. It allowed you to attack more than once, and it had an attack that could deal a little bit of damage. So what you would do is you would do a tiny bit of damage with Torchic, but then you would get maybe a Professor Kukui going, and then maybe you would play a Choice Band, and before you know it, you're actually hitting for moderately decent damage here with Torchic. It had a potential to be an awful lot of fun. Some people claimed it was very good. It was never great, ladies and gentlemen. But you know what? 20 damage, plus a Choice Band is 50 to an EX or a GX, plus a Kukui is 70. And then, of course, you can do that twice. That's maybe 140 in one turn. Now, of course, the big problem here is that if you flip a coin and it's tails, it does nothing. But you had Victini to allow you to reflip, and you had Promo Lurantis so you could do a bit of extra damage. It never was good, but it was always one of those cards that looked like maybe one day it could be. Camerupt EX had a little bit of potential because it had a really big attack that could do 50 damage for every fire energy you discard. It saw a little bit of play here and there with Team Magma's Camerupt, which is also rotating. It had a couple of League Challenge wins, but it was never particularly great. Swampert is a card which always seemed like it had a bit of potential because you could search your deck for any card and put it on top of your deck, and then you could always play something like an Unknown to draw that card. Especially with Archie's Ace in the hole, it was always thought of as something that could be a good tech, but it never really did well enough. Speaking of never did well enough, how about Huntail? Huntail was a very interesting card that did 20 damage for every energy attached to all of your Pokemon. It seemed like it really did have potential. Fire a whole bunch of energy onto your Pokemon and smash. People, again, it saw a bit of play in League Challenges, but it was just never good enough. Starmie was a card that a few people have been talking about lately because it just seems like it's made to be a tech against that Garbodor deck that's doing so well at the moment. For a single energy, assuming Garbodor's also got only one energy attached to it, and most of the time it will, you get an easy one-hit KO on Garbodor. Seems like it's made to be a Garbodor counter, but gone too soon. Sharpedo EX, I made a video about Sharpedo EX. I think it could be a really fun energy denial deck, but in the end, it was just a little bit too slow. I played against it in tournaments, but it was just never good enough. Mega Aggron. I like Mega Aggron, but at the end of the day, it's a Mega Evolved Pokemon that takes too much energy and is just a little bit too slow. And finally, Flygon. Flygon's got a really fun ability, which is just a one-sided judge. It's a red card in an ability. The problem is, one thing we've seen all format, abilities which are on stage 2 Pokemon that aren't grass, so that you can use Forest of Giant Plants, have just never been good enough. And that's why Flygon never saw any real play. Now, none of those cards really set the format on fire. They're in the could have been fun text category. But now we're moving into the main cards category. All of these cards did see play at one time or another. Trevenant EX. Really here, it was a Dark Forest attack that stopped them retreating, but it was played in some of these Vileplume decks, along with a whole bunch of Rainbow Energy, as a decent grass attacker with Wood Blast. 50 damage plus 20 more for each grass energy attached to him. Lots of fun, never saw a huge amount of play, but it did see play here and there. Speaking of which, Ninetales. Ninetales had a really fun ability that locked a stadium in play. So you would get your stadium out, then you would put Ninetales down, and then your opponent couldn't replace the stadium. Problem was they could always do something like play a Hex Maniac and then replace the stadium, or even Field Blower it away, and then you wouldn't be able to put a new one out. Great in theory, saw a bit of play here and there, but always a little bit underpowered. What was not underpowered was Wailord. Wailord really took advantage of having the highest HP in the game. It used Rough Seas to heal, it used Max Potion to heal, and you would just sit there and make your opponent deck out. Get rid of all their energy with stuff like Team Flare Grunt, and just try and make sure they can never, ever do anything to stop you. That deck lives on in things like Wobbuffet, but Wailord is gone. Milotic is also gone. The ability Sparkling Ripples was a very nice ability. It saw a lot of play in Night March for a while. You evolve up, you get to search your discard for any card whatsoever. It was a really good way of recovering special energy before Special Charge came out. Although it's seen a real decline in play lately, it really was a big card for quite a while and was very important to a lot of decks. Now, I'm putting Primal Kyogre in the main cards category. I'm going to be honest, it only ever saw a little bit of play here or there. But it's Primal Kyogre, it does 150 damage, and you know, it's Primal Kyogre. So you've got to give it a little bit of love, ladies and gentlemen, but only a little bit. Speaking of which, Medicham. I was one of those people that tried to make Medicham work. I like fighting Pokemon, like Torchic, it's got the Omega Barrage ancient trait, so you use Yoga Kick for 30, but of course with strong energy that can easily go up to 70, and then you can add all stuff like Choice Band and attack twice. Not affected by weakness really hurt it, but again, this was a deck that went to league challenges and saw a little bit of success here or there. A deck that saw a lot of sustained success, however, was Primal Groudon. Focus Sash made it amazing so it couldn't be one-hit KO'd, but 100 damage, 200 if there's a stadium in play, and that's before you get to stuff like strong energy. It even made day 2 at the recent North American Intercontinental Championships. It really was a powerhouse deck. It went up and it went down, but it's been a good deck ever since it came out, and it's still seen play recently. A card which hasn't seen play recently, but was seen play for a while, was Crawdaunt. You evolve into Crawdaunt, you discard an energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. For a while this saw a bit of play with Seismitoad as a real energy denial deck. It was a lot of fun. For you, not for your opponent. Your opponent hated this. But for you it was a lot of fun. Fell out of favour, but still pretty nice. Excadrill. Now, Excadrill's been seeing a small resurgence recently with Delmise and Choice Band. Again, it's got the Omega Barrage attack, which means it's always going to be interesting. 50 damage, not affected by resistance, is affected by weakness. With 4 Delmise out, you're doing 90. Choice Band, you're doing 120. And you're doing that twice. Not to mention the fact that you can use the first attack Dredge to get any energy onto him if you're a little bit worried. It was a fun Pokemon. I played this in tournaments. I thought it was aces. And the last one here, Spinder. Spinder was really here for stuff like Gyarados. Gyarados had a bunch of Magikarp on its bench with 10 HP remaining. In comes Spinder to KO all of them with the wonderfully named Uproar. Not as well named as Staggering Steps, but you can't have it all. It was a nice little tech. Obviously nowadays we got the promo Tapu Koko that's a little bit better, but that's not the point, ladies and gentlemen. And finally, looking at the trainers we lost. We lost Acrobike. I love Acrobike, ladies and gentlemen. In decks like Vesperquen, it's amazing. It's really good draw for fast, aggressive decks. The threat of Garbodor taking advantage of your items hurts all item cards, including this, but it's still a good card. We've lost Archie's Ace in the Hole and Maxie's Hidden Ball trick, which means we cannot get our water and fighting Pokemon on the bench like basics. To be fair, it's better in Expanded when you've got cards like Computer Search and Execute, but these were seeing a mini resurgence because you can search them out more easily with Tapu Lele. Little bit sad. We've lost Dive Ball, and any water deck just loves Dive Ball because it searches for any water Pokemon. Having said that, they've still got Brooklet Hill to search for basics, and to be honest, you might even want to be using Ultra Ball nowadays so that you can discard water energy to grab them back with Aqua Patch. Now, technically Escape Rope is being rotated, but we are expecting it to be reprinted in Burning Shadows, so although we are losing it, we're not really losing it because Burning Shadows comes out before the rotation comes in. EXP Share was reprinted in Sun and Moon, so we're not losing that. We're losing Professor Birch. If you can flip a heads, it's a really nice draw supporter, a shuffle draw supporter, but in a lot of decks now there's an argument that Hala's better. We're not losing N, we're not losing Sycamore, so it's really not the end of the world. We're losing Repeat Ball. Repeat Ball's one of those odd ones. It just allows you to get a Pokemon you've already got out. It didn't see a huge amount of play, but some decks and some players loved it, and it will be missed. We are losing Rough Seas to heal all of your water and lightning Pokemon. Little bit sad. Ether Paradise Conservation Area will stop damage to basic lightning Pokemon, but it's not as good because your opponent can just replace it before doing damage. Brooklet Hill is now seeing play in a lot of water decks over Rough Seas anyway, but it was still a card that saw an awful lot of play. We're not losing Scorched Earth because it was reprinted in Fates Collide. We are losing Shrine of Memories, but in October we're getting Shining Celebi, which is a basic whose ability is the same as Shining Memories, so it's not really the end of the world. We're losing Silent Lab, which is a little bit sad because it was a really good weapon against things like Shaymin and Tapu Lele. We're losing Teammates, and I hate that we're losing Teammates, ladies and gentlemen, because Teammates was so good for any non-EX deck. You're expecting to be KO'd every turn. Teammates allows you to catch any 2 cards as long as one of your Pokemon was KO'd the previous turn. We're losing Weakness Policy, but that never saw a huge amount of play anyway. And we're losing both Shield and Wonder Energy, but again, they saw very little play. I did see Wonder Energy played in a few fairy decks to try and ward off those special conditions, but you don't need Wonder Energy anymore, ladies and gentlemen, because you've got Comfy, and Comfy does the same thing as Wonder Energy, but isn't just instantly KO'd by something like Enhanced Hammer. So you know what? It's really not the end of the world. And yes, I know Wonder Energy stops all effective attacks and Comfy just stops special conditions, but it's generally special conditions for which it has seen play. So, one more time, let's run through the most important Pokemon and other cards that we're losing in Primal Clash. Wailord EX, Milotic, Primal Groudon, Acrobike, Dive Ball, Rough Seas, Silent Lab, Teammates. Those, for me, ladies and gentlemen, are the main cards that we should be the most sad about. But if you disagree, that's what the comment section is there for. Go nuts, be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter @TheWassy and Twitch at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, you can do so at patreon.com/PTCGRadio. Now, make yourselves comfy because before long, I'm going to be coming back with my Roaring Skies video. And then, of course, all the other sets we're losing. The most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.